Namaste. My name is Vivekanand. This is the 11th episode in a series that I have started with a view to help entrepreneurs who have lots and lots of ideas and would like to succeed with lots of projects. As in the previous episode, in this episode the focus is on processes and stages, and we take a deeper look. I have great pleasure in welcoming David, and I have invited a few panel members, but let's see how many of them can join. Google seems to be making some big announcement today, so I wonder if people are keeping away from this hangout to watch that. I certainly can't compete against Google, so anyway.
Yes, but Vivek, don't we record these and people have a chance to?
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. I don't know what necessarily the attraction is to necessarily being in something live. You really want to go to a live HOA if you're going to get in some type of engagement. That's the reason. And you and I both know that there's plenty of HOAs out there. Folks will engage with the host because of who the host is, or try to engage with the host, or they might go, and we know that there's HOA playgrounds out there where people will go. There'll be a large number of people who are like children, students on a playground. We just go out and play and talk to the folks and maybe make some new friends. And the beauty, and Google was right on with this. They started HOAs, about 3 years plus after they bought YouTube, and they bought YouTube, which is now the world's second largest search engine, behind their own search engine. So they pretty well control search in the world. Yeah, not pretty well. They control search in the world. But they were, you talk about the big announcements. We know that it's very hard to follow Google sometimes when they make announcements about technology, because you and I are a party to all of that, and sometimes we find out about it, and sometimes we don't. And thank goodness we've got friends like Ronnie Binzer who help us, sort through all those changes and what have you. But I want to be right here today because this is where the good information is going to be flowing.
On the agenda today, we begin with just a minute where each of us would give a 60-second elevator pitch, followed by a short presentation covering the topic of the day. This week's story snippet is, as usual, from Star Trek: The Next Generation, and the episode entitled The Arsenal of Freedom. David?
Yes.
Earthquake happening?
My house is falling apart. There must have been an earthshake tremor.
Okay.
The first one ever in Cincinnati, Ohio. We're back.
Okay. Yeah, the agenda as usual is 60-second pitch, and then topic of the day. This week's story is again from the Arsenal of Freedom. Yes, this is the same story that I used in the previous episode, but this time I would be talking about slightly different aspects of the whole story. Then we shall have a discussion with David and any other panel member who joins us later on, maybe, sharing experiences and insights. After that, I shall talk about what's coming up in the next episode, and we conclude for today. As in the previous episodes, I aim for half an hour, but I would not dare to cut off anyone when the discussion is lively and adding value. As David said in one of his HOAs, When the discussion is flowing, we keep going. David, I'm stealing that one from you.
You may steal whatever I say, Vivek, and put them in. And if you can find good use for them, just go. Just make sure you give me proper credit. That's all I care. or we don't want anything plagiaristic. We want everything to be above board here.
Yeah, we have come to the just a minute section. Each of us will have a minute each, and we shall give you our 60-second elevator pitches. Within a minute, each of us will try to explain why anyone should contact us, how it would be helpful for them, and how can they contact and connect with us. There will be a penalty if you go over a minute, which is meant to be fun. The penalty is you will have to say the sentence, integrate, simplify life 3 times. Penalty for me would be decided by David. In any case, let me start the whole thing going. I have a 1-minute timer set up here. Namaste. My name is Vivekanand. Wake Technology is my company. I believe in living a simple life. I believe in thinking differently. I am proud to share my belief with Steve Jobs and Leonardo da Vinci, who said, simplicity is the ultimate in sophistication. Here's my simple way. Avoid the cowboys, work with the Indian. Let the Indian handle the technology, and you live an integrated, simple life. Maybe you have lots of projects and you are struggling to find someone who can integrate and simplify. Contact me through my Google Plus page or my website, wake-technology.com. Hope that came in within 60 seconds. It's our guest's turn. I shall call out each name. At the moment, there is only David. Pin you on the main screen and start a timer.
Well, first I have to say, you were telling such an interesting story, Vivek. It didn't matter that you went over your 1 minute. I'm not gonna penalize you. But I do have a question, and I'm surprised I've never asked you this question before. Mm-hmm. On your intro screen about yourself, you had AMPG International.
Mm-hmm. APMG, yeah.
You have never mentioned that. What is that all about?
That's the organization which gives the PRINCE2 accreditation. They are the authorized body to certify people. They are the ones who conduct the exams and so on.
And the other thing I have to mention, I challenged you last week, but you didn't step up and meet the challenge to put your profile picture on the same page with Stephen Jobs and Leonardo.
Yeah, that would be. I felt that would be a step too far away. So I'd like to emulate them, but it's a dream. It's a goal. It's a yeah.
Well, but you have some fun with it. It is part of your branding because you. Yeah. Every time that I hear, every time you have the opportunity, you promote simplicity, and simplicity is an integral part of small business. Because when you take it out of the realm of simplicity, people aren't going to understand what you're doing, and they're not going to do business with you. So you have to keep the concept simple. Okay, I'm only going to take about 15 seconds for my intro. My name is Small Biz David. For over 40 years, I have been answering small business questions and challenges. To that end, just today, we've launched in our Dreaming with Entrepreneurs and Google Plus community 100 questions that small businesses need to answer about their own business between now and the end of the year. I stayed under a minute, Vivek.
Yes, you did.
I kept the message simple.
Yeah. That's the way to go. We have now come to the topic of the day. I shall show you a short presentation. As usual, we begin with a TOTD story, and we shall take detailed look at 2 more of the 7 processes that are part of PRINCE2. In the previous episode, we covered 2 processes, starting up and directing. In this episode, we cover the next 2 logical processes, initiating project process and managing stage boundary process. You can watch the previous episodes on my website you can see the link there, and on my YouTube channel. It is time for the TOTD story now. Today, I shall tell you a snippet from an episode of Star Trek entitled The Arsenal of Freedom. Yes, even in the last episode, I used this episode of Star Trek. I'm repeating the same story, but emphasizing different aspects today. I feel it's such a story which is very appropriate for a sales situation where you have to sell something, someone wants to try, you are trying to sell something to somebody, and so on. So in this episode, you would see how following wrong processes and ignoring the purpose of the process can destroy an entire civilization. Enterprise is ordered by Starfleet to investigate the disappearance of a light cruiser USS Drake. Apparently, all intelligent life on the planet Minos has disappeared. Citizens of Minos developed highly advanced weaponry and typically sold it to both sides of a conflict. Just a comment here. Our present globalized weapons industry seems to be supplying weapons to both sides of conflicts. When Enterprise reaches Minos, they receive a hail from an automated system. The citizens of Minos had developed an automated system to sell their weaponry. The automatic recorded message says that their tagline, peace through superior firepower. Now, let me point out to the viewers, peace comes from attitude and actions you take rather than tools that you use. So cautiously, Commander Riker, Lieutenant Tasha Yar, and Data beam down to Minos. They encounter what turns out to be a holographic representation of Captain Rice from the ship USS Drake, which was known to have been lost. Let me bring up a point here. I have learned in sales training that I underwent that when you meet a prospective client, you need to make meticulous notes. And when you meet the same prospective client once again, you use what you have learned. Now, in this Star Trek story, the weapons vending system at Minos has learned a lot from the encounter it had with USS Drake, and it uses that knowledge to create a holographic image of Captain Rice. But in this story, Commander Riker is aware that he is talking to a hologram, and he deliberately misleads the holographic image. Well, in real life, isn't that most prospective clients do? They try to mislead you with extraneous or deliberately wrong information. The The holographic image asks lots of questions. It tries to determine the weapon's capabilities. David, isn't that what we are supposed to do when we meet a prospective client? Ask a lot of questions.
It's very interesting that you mentioned that because you're on our advisory board in my community, you saw a list of 100. Today it was keywords. The actual question was not attached to the keywords, but you very clearly saw the words sales process. Very clearly saw those as keywords today. So you and I are on the same page. The answer to your question is yes, because the sales process, I define it as a 4 or 5 step process to keep it simple, and certainly the most important part of the process is to find out what the pain of the prospect is, because you don't know what solution to offer until you know what that pain is. So it's very systemized. It's a very systemized process. So good analogy, Vivek.
and in this story, I mean, when you do ask questions, in this story, the system asks a lot of questions to Commander Riker, and like a real-life prospective client, he gives deliberate wrong answers. I've seen that happen in real life, mainly because they are actually on a mission to do a study. They're trying to study the market. They're actually doing. They're not really out to buy stuff. They are actually trying to figure out what's out there. Let's find out. Let's gather information. So when you encounter such a prospective client, yes, they would answer your questions with answers that are either not really relevant or could even be deliberately misleading to keep you still on the process. In any case, in this story, that's what happens. Commander Riker gives deliberately misleading answers because he knows that what's in front of him is here in this case this one. He knows that it's a holographic image, so he gives deliberately wrong answers to see what happens. Now the holographic Captain Rice is quickly replaced by a weapons system which fires on Commander Riker, encasing him and incapacitating him in some kind of energy field. The mandate given to the away team by the captain was to study what happened on Minos. But this project has now taken an unexpected turn, and the project needs suitable changes. Captain Jean-Luc takes an exceptional step and decides to beam down himself with Dr. Beverly. But Data has analyzed the situation and has a plan to release Commander Riker from the incapacitating energy field encasement. However, the automatic weapon system attacks again, and in the commotion, Jean-Luc and Beverly fall into an underground cellar. They also find that their communicators no longer work. Now, how would your prospective clients feel if as soon as they enter your office, their mobile phones become inoperative? Just imagine that. Geordie LaForge, who was given charge of Enterprise, finds himself under a lot of stress as some automatic and highly advanced weapon system attacks Enterprise and the ship is in danger. The weapon seems to be highly elusive as it is cloaked and invisible. John de La Forge also has another procedural problem. The chief engineer of Enterprise, Mr. Logan, outranks Geordi, and as per standard rules, he should be in charge and he tries to take control. This is a process that is trying to assert itself. But let's see what happens next. But Geordi stands his ground. He says he reports only to Captain Jean-Luc and Commander Riker, who gave him the authority, and he instructs the chief engineer to work on the warp engines of the ship to give extra power to the shields. In the meanwhile, Jean-Luc finds out that the automatic weapon selling system is active. What has been attacking the Enterprise and the away team on planet Minos is actually a demonstration of his weapons system. The automatic salesman hologram wants to confirm from Captain Picard. It asks, impressive demonstration, isn't it? The citizens of Minos had developed such an advanced weapon system that they themselves lost control of it, and their entire civilization got destroyed by their own weapons. Jean-Luc then has to convince this automatic selling device that he is convinced by the capabilities of the weapon system and he is buying the system and no need for further demonstration. It's only then that the attack on the Enterprise and the away team on planet Minos stop. David, have you heard of a situation where a prospective client says they would buy whatever is for sale only to actually get rid of the salesman? Because no sale is complete until the contract is signed and money is paid.
The answer to your question is absolutely yes. I certainly, in my lifetime, I don't think that's ever really been a challenge I've had in my lifetime. In that, you know, you have to really understand. Selling is a psychology. Selling is a study in behavior, and unless you really grasp that, you should not be in sales, because nobody wants to be sold anything. Nobody wants to be sold. People will buy, thank goodness, but they buy because you have created a value kind of situation for them. But we don't want to feel like we've been sold something. So yes, to your question, there's probably been thousands upon thousands of salespeople who said yes just to get rid of them, and when it came time to sign the contract, there was no signature on the contract.
That's pretty much what happens here. Jean-Luc says, yes, we want to buy it just to stop the demonstration happening, because the demonstration is actually killing, or at least trying to kill his people. The point here is you can develop a complex fail-safe system, but you have to make sure that it is a system that you really want. Otherwise, you would be in trouble. Now let's get back to Earth and present time and hope that our civilization is not under threat by our own actions. I need to do a screen share at this point, and I shall pin David. David, please share with us your thoughts so far.
Well, it's a pretty bold statement to make, that the statement that you hope that well, we are victims of our own shortcomings. We are victims of our own shortcomings. It never ceases to amaze me, Vivek, how You know, I used to watch Star Trek, but today, as you present episodes, it's amazing how I look at those episodes differently and understand them differently than I did. And that comes with experience. It comes from perspective. You know, over the years, through experiences, we look at things differently. I absolutely love. You introduced some new technology today. For the third time, I've seen Google Glass in the presentation, but today you also presented what was the beginning of the autoresponder. If I heard you correctly, the Minnows folks probably created the first autoresponder that they heard a response and they created maybe the automatic weapons system. Maybe it was a generic response. The holographic, holographic doesn't by its very nature have to be somewhat generic in that they were going to present that whenever they had a chance to, as opposed to really listening. And we're back to that. We're back to the sales process. That a good salesperson listens.
Yeah.
Long before they speak. Long before they speak.
But this point here in this story, actually, David, the system that Minos people have designed, they designed was. It doesn't really listen to what the customer wants.
That's what I'm saying.
What it does is actually it even finds out the limitations, the capabilities and limitations of the prospective client, and tailors what it provides even in the demo. So that's where it becomes really powerful, in the sense. Yeah, you'll find really hard to beat that system. That's the point. The only way the John Luke can beat the system was by saying, "Yes, I agree. I want to buy it."
Well, first I gotta say, do you know we've got a black screen on right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, it's by design. Vivek, earlier today, I posted a comment out there. And you responded to it, and you asked me the question, and it was about a 60-second commercial, if you will, about yourself. How do you present yourself out there? And your question was, should somebody present them, have a different kind of 60-second response based upon whom was asking the question? And my response to you was absolutely not that you should mislead anybody, but you should make your presentation applicable, widely applicable to whatever the particular situation might be, to whatever the particular challenge might be. And so if you remember, my answer to your question was yes, and that's part of understanding who your targeted prospect is. Understanding who your targeted audience is.
Yeah. Okay, I am doing the screen share. I hope everyone can see.
You know, when you asked me that question today, it would tie into this HOA presentation, because you asked it about 2 hours ago. Did you know that it was going to tie into this presentation? It tied in beautifully to it.
Yeah. I use a software called as iMindMap, but I'm not using its built-in presentation mode, since it takes over the entire screen, which means I can never use it in a Hangout on Air until ThinkBusan, the company that develops iMindMap, changes things. To keep it simple, I am using screen captures of the mind map. The PRINCE2 manual explains each process by covering purpose, objective, context, and activities. I shall adopt a similar approach by using mind maps. This is a mind map showing all of the 7 processes as defined by PRINCE2. Today, I shall be covering the process numbered 3 there, initiating project process, and managing stage boundary process numbered 4. The project begins with a process called as initiating process, and this mind map looks sophisticated as it is now. Let me zoom into each branch and explain. The main purpose of this process is to have objectivity in the project by establishing a project baseline and enabling the organization to understand the work required. Many small businesses fail to recognize the fact that at this stage, a lot of resources, including corporate level resources, are utilized, and hence objectivity is a must. The objective of this initiating process is to ensure common understanding of the benefits expected, why this project is necessary, and the scope of this project. Let me re-emphasize this point. At this stage, regardless of the size of the organization, the top bosses get involved and they set the tone for the project. The context of this process is to get clarity about the project. Important questions such as why, what, and how. The aim is to lay down firm foundation for the project. Inputs to this process are the outputs from the starting up project process, which we saw in the previous episode. Let us now look at the outputs of this initiating project process. The benefits review plan, project initiation documentation, and next stage plan. These need to be approved by the project board. The project initiation documentation is very important because it is used as a baseline for the project and gets referenced throughout the project. Let us look closely at the project initiation documentation. The inputs into this are the project definition, project approach, project management, team structure, project plan, business case, role descriptions, and management strategies. Management strategies are for quality, configuration, risk, and communications. That is the full outputs branch of the initiating project process. Let us look at the activities. There are 8 different activities. Few management strategies have to be prepared. First one is for risk management, configuration management strategy, quality management strategy, communications management strategy. So these are the first 4 activities under prepare the management strategies. You need to set up project controls. Who controls what has to be established, and the controls have to be established. Creating the project plan is a major activity. The business case is refined. Of course, after creating and refining all those things, assemble the project initiation document. So those are the 8 activities. That is the whole initiating project process mind map. Now we are back at the mind map showing 7 processes. Let us take a quick look at the manage stage boundary process, which is handled mainly by the project manager. As I had mentioned in earlier episodes, every project has to be split into multiple stages, at least two. Whenever the project approaches the end of a stage, the project manager needs to do the activities mentioned in the manage stage boundary process. Let us take a detailed look by zooming in on each branch. The purpose of managing stage boundary process is to enable the project board to approve the next stage plan, review the updated project plan, and to confirm continued business justification for the project and success of the current stage. The objective is to assure project board that all products in current stage plan have been completed and to prepare stage plan for next stage. The project initiation documentation gets updated and reviewed. Every project needs to ensure the products it creates will deliver benefits. Let me pause for a moment there and remind you of the Star Trek story I told you earlier. In my opinion, if only the people of Minos had made sure at every stage boundary that the product they are creating delivers the benefits they expect, their civilization would have survived. They should have stopped their weapons development project and dismantled the weaponry. They didn't do it. Let us look at the 5 different activities the project manager has to handle when the current stage of the project approaches completion. The project manager has to plan the next stage. The project plan is to be updated. You may remember that I keep saying that all these plans are live documents and they are to be updated regularly. It is when the stage boundary approaches that the project manager updates the project plan. The business case needs to be updated. Again, you may notice that in my Star Trek story, if only they had updated their business case, they would have realized that the weapons they are developing can turn against them and destroy them. If only they had stopped and analyzed the situation. The project manager then reports the end of the stage to the project board, who then have to do few activities mentioned under directing project process. You can refer back to the previous episode for that. Now, if there is a major change, the project manager has the responsibility to raise an exception report and produce an exception plan. In the Star Trek story, when Commander Riker gets imprisoned by the incapacitating energy field, the captain takes the exceptional step of beaming down with the doctor and to try and solve the situation. So he executes the exception plan. This managing stage boundary process is done by the project manager, and that would then trigger other activities by the project board. This is the full branch of the mind map showing the 5 different activities that the project manager has to do. This is the full managing stage boundary process mind map. We covered directing and starting up in previous episode, we covered initiating and managing stage boundary in this episode. I have covered a lot of concepts. I know it is quite a lot, and viewers may want to rewind and review it once again later on. But we now have come to share experiences section, and David has been patiently waiting. And let me come back into your view by coming out of screen share. I shall pin David once again. David, please share your thoughts and experiences with us.
I have to say that my most important takeaway from these discussions, Vivek, has been the fact that there is a process. There is a process that all of our business thinking must go through. It's so that we cover all the points that we need to cover in any given discussion. B, a logical approach so that we can understand all the various aspects of the program, and then very clearly a very consistent message of yours has been where accountability for all the parts of that system and process rests. Where's the accountability? Because we have to understand accountability, just as small business owners must take responsibility for what is working in their business and what is not working in their business. Somebody has to be held accountable for it, and it has to be the one who's going to take, who has the most at risk, if you will, is certainly the owner of the business. The owner of the business is a successful owner when they if they need to surround themselves with people who can help make the decisions about that process, be held accountable for the process or that piece of the process. But the one thing that small business owners often do not do a very good job of, and I was trying to figure out how it necessarily fits into the mind map process, is empowering those folks along the way so that they can properly make decisions and not have to run to the owner of the company at all stages and say, okay, can we do this? Okay, can we do this? The owner of the business has to hire the right folks and empower those folks, knowing that they will make the best decision on behalf of the business. And I was kind of trying to figure out how that fits into the mind map. It was there someplace, but it's a great thing. And I brought up this point last week, Vivek, that a small business owner might take a look at this whole concept of PRINCE2 and what you're doing, and there's a very sophisticated, very well thought mind map that explains the concept, and it might be overwhelming. Not might be. It is overwhelming to that small business owner, and says, I can't take time to do all that stuff. It's just, well, you've done a great job in breaking that down and showing why the small business owner must take that whole concept and back to your mantra, if you will, integrate and simplify. That's what we need to do in our business with the systems and the processes that are created. Have I brought it all together? Have I brought it all together for you, Vivek?
Yes, you have. It's interesting how you were mentioning the comments that pass. I mean, I make something and you respond and so on. Here, here is a comment that I see on the event stream. She says she is planning to stop by, but not sure if she can make it. I wonder whether she is watching.
Did you
If
see my
not,
response? Did you see my response back to her after she made that statement?
yeah, I did it, and in fact, it's here.
Yeah, I actually I was in an HOA with her about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and she's got a fantastic. I mean, she's a real great person to have in because not only does she make very appropriate, good comments. There you go. She makes great comments and questions, it was a pleasure sitting on an HOA panel with her.
Hmm.
And I'm sure she will, because she took the time to make the statement that she did. I'm
Yeah.
sure she will be watching the recorded version, and knowing her as I know her, I'm sure she will make a comment
Yeah.
or challenge. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There will be engagement. She's a very engaging person.
Yeah, and Zara. Zara was saying I tried to ping her, and she has 2 different hangouts. So it seems to be that everyone is busy either doing their own hangouts or watching Google's announcement.
Why you necessarily have to see it live? That's the great thing about it, about the folks that you and I network with. They have to see it live. Well, they have to see those kind of things live. And I say to some of the folks, they have to see them live because that's their area of expertise. And you and I have expectations of them to do that they will go listen to what's happening and then bring it home, if you will, and share the knowledge, the information, and the application.
Yeah.
And I think that's a prime example of PRINCE2, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is.
How it works and why it works.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Yeah, that was a great discussion, and we have now come to what is coming up next week. In the next episode, I shall cover the remaining 3 processes: control stage, manage product delivery, and closing the project. Control stage is actually controlling a specific stage. These 2 are mainly done by the project manager, as the mind map there shows. Managing product delivery and controlling the stage. So out of the 7 steps, 1 is ongoing, 3 are done by the project manager. The other 3 are what, not 3. Essentially, it becomes 1 if you look at it in that sense. Directing the project is what the business owner actually needs to worry about. So I'm trying to answer your comment about some people may feel this is too complicated, so they can't do it. Not necessarily. Those are the processes in place. You need to follow probably one of them, which is managing the directing the different processes. You play the major role there, and which is what you need to do as a business owner. You need to make sure that things go as you want them, and all the processes are there to make sure that it happens. We have now come to the end of the episode. Your closing comments, please, David.
Actually, I'm going to chat. Well, first of all, I enjoyed I enjoyed the presentation today because it really gets me thinking about what processes I use, not just in the business, but how I approach life and challenges that we have in our daily lives, be they personal challenges or be they business challenges, number one. And I thank you for helping to simplify my life and integrate all the different aspects of my life. But I'm gonna challenge you on something, Vivek, because I just heard you describe what the next episode is going to be. I would make a suggestion, rather than doing the 3 of them all next week. Next week, you do just the first 2, and save the third one for a following week, because it could become a closing to how do you close the project, but it could also be a closing, how do you close this series of HOAs that you did on PRINCE2. So make the closing its own. That's a lot of material. That's a lot of stuff to cover in one episode. So why don't you make 2 episodes out of it?
Yeah, I think that's a good plan. Yes. We'll do that.
Okay,
yes.
Good. Because my simple mind can only absorb so much information at one time.
Yeah, I'm sure you would want to know more, as this is a series of HOAs. There is more to come. Thank you for watching the show. Do please share the link to this show on Google Plus and YouTube and so on. You can reach me through my Google Plus profile or through my website, wake-technology.com. My closing comments as usual are: integrate, simplify life.